Hello again. Well, I'm going to jump straight in because I'm so delighted that God always makes a way to speak to us. Always, 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 always. And, I'm talking to you about Samuel and about Saul and about King David. And I go straight to the scripture where he says, he gives him an instruction. He says, fill your horn with oil and go. I'm sending you to Jesse, the Bethlehemite, for I have provided myself a king amongst his sons. So God is making his desire clear. He's making his will known. And right off the bat, I want to tell you that this was not because David, a son of Jesse, was setting goals for himself, that he was dreaming about becoming a king one day, that somehow he was in a place where he was grooming himself, studying, making an effort to become a king. He didn't even know what was going on here. He was out tending his father's sheep. This was all about God who saw David, saw his heart, knew him from before he was born, knew everything about David, and God was the one who selected David. And so if I read from verse 2, and Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul, the current king, hears it, he will kill me. Why would he want to kill the prophet? How could he even be able to kill the prophet? Well, he had all the military might, he had all the power, and it's true already if you read in the previous scriptures that he was really worried about what the people thought more than he worried about what God thought. And so, whether Samuel should have been concerned about his life or not, the real issue that is of importance to us is that even in his humanity, even though God spoke to Samuel, his humanity came through. He threw obstacles to God. He had questions for God. He said, how can I go? If Saul hears it, he will kill me. He was facing the reality of the circumstances. He didn't look at the reality of the circumstances and say, well, if God's telling me he's going to take care of it. He had this open conversation with God. This is the reality of the circumstances, God. What do you have to say about that? And so God answers him. But the Lord said, take a heifer with you, a calf, and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Then invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what you shall do. You shall anoint for me the one I name to you. Now, I want to just show you the amazing things of God. Yeah, God doesn't hear what Samuel says and say, Samuel, who are you to question me? Why don't you just obey my will? He understood that Samuel had a legitimate question. If Saul hears, I'm dead. So God says, okay, whether you are actually believe in my protection or not, whether you think that actually I'm in this to the point where I would protect you or not, in some ways you could say God could have been offended by Samuel's question, because Samuel, if I'm giving you the instruction, don't you think I can protect you from Saul? Samuel, if I'm the one talking to you and commanding you to do something, don't you think I've already thought about your question? The answer is yes to all of the above. But God is not so concerned about some things that you may feel in your heart, provided that you're not trying to throw a barrier where you don't obey God. If your heart's desire is to obey him, he's going to answer you and help you get the wisdom and the understanding of what to do next. And so the important thing that I want to stress again before I finish this session today is that God was making his will, his desire, his dream clear to Samuel. This was not something that King David or David had planned, had set his life course for, had some kind of grand scheme, was smarter because he was he was goal driven. He had a grand scheme and plan for his life. No, this was all about God's desire to have for himself a man that he knew he could trust going forward. I look forward to sharing more with you in the next session.